Good afternoon, Kirsten. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Mel. How are you?
Fantastic. I love that you're wearing pink. We actually match.
I know we do. It's like we called each other and planned it.
But we didn't.
We didn't.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for taking the time to be here today. I'm really excited to highlight you for the Women in Tech and Their Money series. Something I kicked off, gosh, it's almost been a year now. So you'll be my first gal for the new year, 2022.
Excellent. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just so the audience knows, Kirsten and I met recently. I mean, semi-recently. It's been about a year through an amazing organization here in Chicago called Women in Business Connect, WIBC. And Kirsten has been instrumental in teaching me a lot about how to use these new virtual communication programs. Even as we got on here before earlier today, I had some technical glitches, and obviously this is one of your big areas of expertise, and very fundamental and important for us when we were all learning how to juggle that during the pandemic. So super excited to have you here today. It was funny in our conversations leading up to our interview that we have definitely met in the past, in some past life. It's amazing to me that we have played in so many of the same spaces, co-working spaces, women's organizations, tech groups here in Chicago. And I feel like we've had to have met at some point in the last 4 or 5 years. Like there's just no way we couldn't have not met. So,
well, we had to. We definitely had. We've definitely been in the same room. We just didn't know it.
Absolutely. So I'm so happy to bring this full circle, 360 degrees, and have you here today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Excellent. Well, thank you so much again for having me. This is such an honor to be speaking with you. As Mel said, I'm Kirsten Ramos. I am the founder of Elevate Performance Solutions. And what Elevate specializes in is working with small to mid-sized post-startup organizations. And I'll tell you what that means in just a moment. Helping them with their learning and development initiatives. So a lot of times when companies get past that startup phase, so in other words, they're viable, they've been through rounds of funding, what happens is the founders hire on some people, and then suddenly they see this exponential growth. And so they promote those individuals into management, and they hire more people, and they start really growing the team and the organization. And they realize, oh, wow, these individuals are great. They could be great managers. They're not necessarily great managers right now because they don't have the tools to do so. So what we do is we come in and work with the leadership team. Oftentimes it's anyone from the CEO to an HR executive that is really in charge of rolling out programs for the organization. And so we make them all customized training programs that help to leverage their leadership capabilities. So that's our sweet spot. I'm based here in Chicago, and I live in the Bridgeport neighborhood with my husband, daughter, and a various array of animals that live with us.
Yes, today we are definitely experiencing the frozen tundra here in Chicago. The sun did come out for a few minutes here, and I love when she makes her appearance, but you mentioned the various animals. Tell us more about that.
Sure. So my family and I foster kittens. And so at any given time, we may have 5 animals that live with us. We may have 12 animals that live with us because of our foster rotation. During the winter, it's a little quieter, but we have a dog, 3 cats, because one of our fosters was a failure, which means that instead of having them be adopted by someone else, we adopted one of our kittens. So we have 3 cats.
Your foster animals ended up becoming permanent family members.
We had two of our 5 animals were fosters that we failed with. So I like to say it, but keep in mind, we only have 3 humans that live in the house. So we're definitely outnumbered by our animals.
Well, it's funny because I went down the rabbit hole literally last night looking at bunnies for adoption in Chicago, and they're all black and white, and I can't find a blonde one. I don't know why.
It's out there. It's out there.
I'm looking. But of course, my husband also said no.
Darn it.
I know. But okay, so when we've spoke about our time together, obviously we both started in corporate, right? I mean, I think that's just something that naturally lends itself to when we graduated from college.
Correct.
So tell me a little bit about like how long you've been in the real world, and then a little bit about your, that transition from going from corporate to starting Elevate, because I think that's the true success that you want to share with us.
Sure. Well, it's interesting. So I graduated from the University of Iowa in 2000, and I went right into public relations. So a lot of people don't realize that. And a lot of other people say, well, how did you get into training? How did you get into corporate learning and development? And no one at the time, maybe there is a program now, but no one goes to school to become a learning and development professional.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know what we're all under, right?
Right. I mean, sometimes, if you go into human resources, but a lot of times people with a human resources degree don't specialize in learning and development. So through my public relations career, which is short-lived, and I kind of bounced around, I kind of did a career roller coaster of different industries. And I landed on learning and development about 15 years ago. So I spent, kind of 5-6 years bouncing around to various industries, fell into learning and development, and found that I really had a passion for not only helping others, but I really liked to be in front of the classroom. It was something that I felt I did really well. And now I still love being in front of the Zoom camera. So even from that morph, what I realized going through my career, I was advancing at a rapid rate, is I realized I didn't love managing people, but I loved teaching people how to manage others. Absolutely. And I know, Mel, you and I've talked about this before, how it's like, no, we love having our own companies because we are our own boss and we don't manage other people. So that was something that as I was going through my career and I was getting more staff underneath me as the global head of learning and development for an organization, I was like, I'm not really all that great of a manager and I don't enjoy it. Well, then when the company I was working for was purchased by a larger organization, inevitably values change. Corporate hierarchy can shift where you love being, it was a post-startup company. The same type of company I serve today, that was the company I was working for. A lot of cool innovation and loved being there. It just, when the new ownership came in, it wasn't the right fit any longer. No hard feelings. I still talk to a bunch of people from that organization, but it just wasn't right. So I jumped ship, went to another group and realized within the first couple of weeks, I made a mistake. This is not what was promised, signed up for. But instead of saying, okay, I'll gut it out for a year, talking to people, especially my spouse, and saying, I think I made a mistake. I need to leave. And the support I received from him and others that I spoke with to say, yes, leave. Who does that? Who leaves after 4 weeks at a company? No one. No one does that. And I did. And I took.
I'm proud of yourself for that, because, there's a couple of things that I want to jump in real quick and say.
Sure, please.
First and foremost, I graduated in the year of 2002. And what people on this video may not realize is that is right when the tech bubble burst. And I don't know about you, it also was right after 9/11. So I was out of a job within the first 9 months of graduating from college. And it was really, really tough finding a job. I mean, my first job out of school after that was basically a secretary. So we weren't given the same opportunity that a lot of other people were, in the sense of, because you said in the beginning, you kind of bounced around trying to figure out what to do, because there weren't a lot of options.
Right.
So there's that. Second of all, Big Ten school, yay. But number three, you know, the fact that you recognized in yourself, and I think this is something that Gen Xers share,
Mhm.
a very deep desire and trait to not put up with the BS.
Right.
Right. We've already been knocked around at the beginning of our career. Then we're in corporate, we're going through, and I've gone through 3 mergers in financial services. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And I was never on the right end of that equation.
Right.
And by the time you got to this point in your career, you had just had enough.
Right. For sure.
And I was there with you, and I had the same conversation with my spouse, and I was like, I just can't do it anymore. Yeah. So tell us. So this is where you were like, okay, I'm going to start my own company.
And it's always like the imposter syndrome comes in at that point. Why would anyone hire me? I haven't been doing this, you know, I'll use my air quotes, that long. Because I think a lot of times you think of people who go out on their own, they do it as almost a end of career, a retirement plan. They're like, okay, I don't want to work in corporate anymore, but I'll be a consultant because I have 40 years experience in this industry. And so for someone that had 10 years experience in the learning and development field, it was really like no one will hire you. Why would they hire you? What differentiates you? And what was wonderful is the amount of support of people saying, yeah, you can do this. People will hire you. And how will you know they won't hire you unless you try? Right. And I let people in my network know, former colleagues of mine that had left different organizations that I'd worked with and landed elsewhere. And one of them hired me right off the bat and said, yes, I am new at this company. They have no learning and development. She was the head of HR and said, I would love for you to come in and build a learning and development program, not only for our managers, but also for our individual contributors. And her faith in me really, and I'll do a plug, thank you, Cindy Akins. Her faith in me really catapulted my business because I was able to utilize that work as a testimonial, as, hey, I did this for this type of company, you know, not disclosing who they were. And it was a wonderful jumping off point that then led me to get connected with some organizations within the Chicago tech sphere. And I can't see ever going back to working in-house.
I was going to say, and here we are today, right?
Indeed.
How long has Elevate been in existence now?
5.5 years.
Wow, congratulations, you made it.
Thank you. Yes.
For those of you that are still working at corporate, the 5-year mark is really when we determine that we've made it.
We're viable. We can do this.
How did you put it? We're past the post startup stage.
That's right. We're past.
Well, okay. So all during this time, I'm sure you've learned a lot of lessons. You probably faced some obstacles. There's days where you probably just wanted to bang your head against the wall. Share with us something that maybe you want to have others think about as they're going through their career journey.
Sure. I think some of the lessons I learned early on were to really take time to step back. A lot of times when you're a company of one, you're really working on everything all at once. And sometimes what you're working on isn't syncing with everything else or isn't even syncing with where you want to be. Mm-hmm. So taking that step back and by doing that, you're going to end up saying no. And some of the mistakes that I've made, it's because I've said yes to a client or to an engagement that I really should have said no. And I got through it fine and the client was happy, but it may not have been an area of expertise where I could really shine. Or it may have been a project where I had to do so much work in order to educate myself in an area that, again, I wasn't as strong in, which is nothing to say for professional development. It's great to have that. Mm-hmm. But it was more of, oh, of course I can do it because we can do anything. And then realizing you've taken on too much because you probably should have passed that on to someone else. So that's a huge lesson learned.
Yeah, I would say a along with that too, and we've had this conversation quite a bit at WIBC, is did you get paid for all the time that you put into it? Because when you really then also back into how many hours you spent educating yourself, figuring
Yep.
it out, putting together the plan, implementing the plan, presenting the plan to your client,
Yep.
you know, did you end up ultimately getting paid for your time and your service? And the answer was probably not. So
It's no.
the answer to have said in the beginning.
Right. And I think it's not the client's fault. It's the fact that they asked, hey, we love you. Can you do this too? Yes. Let me figure it out. So yes, you're right. If you add up all of those hours, and even if you say, okay, I'll use 5 of those hours for professional development because I learned a new thing, whatever the thing is, it still is not, it's not worth, because what it ends up doing is it doesn't allow you to take on other clients.
Right.
Because you're too busy with the same client, and they don't know that you're doing all this extra work because you're not billing them because you said you could do it. So yes, definitely a lesson learned.
Yeah. And you know, the other lesson learned, I think in there too, is that only needs to happen like once or twice in your life. Okay, lesson learned. The other thing I think for folks who may be watching this video is when you're an entrepreneur, I mean, I'm going to bring out that term grit, which is that you are like, you know what, I got to feed myself. I've got this family of animals I got to take care of. I mean, yeah, other people depend on me. Like, I got to pay the bills. And, you know, more times than not, we're willing to step out our comfort zone to take on projects that we may not have the expertise in. Because that's the way we wear all the hats. We don't know what we don't know, right? And
Right.
at that point in our entrepreneurial journey, you just don't know until you learn that lesson. So I think that's something that's really important to share with our group. So switching gears, you know, I created this series, if you will, to interview women in tech, and it is mostly to have you share your money tips along the way that you've also learned, things that you've either made mistakes, we're not going to judge you, or anything that you would share with the audience that you think is a key takeaway that you would want women in tech to know.
So I think that last one is definitely a money tip as well, right? Because you end up spending a lot of time and not getting paid for that. Along the same lines is a lot of times with being an entrepreneur, especially, you know, the term solopreneur, where it's just you don't have a team, is that we get so excited to work on that client work that we don't look ahead to see what's in our pipeline. And when I use the term pipeline, I'll admit I don't have a huge planned out pipeline, but what I do know is that I need to be always developing business as I go along, because it's not to oversaturate myself. It's more so to make sure that, hey, I'm really busy in January. Let's make sure when February hits, I'm also really busy and in a manageable way. Because what tends to happen, and this could be classified under the lessons learned probably as well, is that we get so busy working in our business that we forget to work on our business. And so we're really busy for those couple months. And then we see, I have nothing that following month. And it's almost at that point we realize it too late to book that business. We're definitely going to have a couple weeks there where we don't have money coming in. So I think always making sure that you're doing some type of business development on a weekly basis. It doesn't have to overwhelm you, but every week you should have business development on your to-do list, in your mind, so that you can make sure you're able to capitalize next month on some business that you developed this month.
So as a learning and development coach, I would have to think that pipeline and sales process are some topics that you potentially help you know, small to mid-sized companies post startup work on. Did I get that right?
You did post startup. Absolutely. Yes. So
So do you have a tip on how to best, you've mentioned have a business development action of some kind each week. What does that look like for you?
for me, it looks like, who do I need to reach out to? Who do I need to have a conversation with? Oftentimes I've conducted more of a public workshop with my partners at 1871, so that it's one person from an organization attending. I need to follow up with that person or those individuals to make sure, hey, do you need a learning and development partner? Because oftentimes they're like, yes, we do. Or, hey, I'm not in that world, but let me make an introduction to you for our HR professional or our CEO in some cases. So that's what it looks like to me, is really relationship based. That's how I sell. I'm very much personal email. People are like, oh, but how's your email funnel? And the reason I don't have it, and it's nothing to say you shouldn't have one, it's more so that for me, what works for my business is personal outreach. Right. It's not a canned email for me. I know in some settings you have to do that because of what you do. And that works great for so many other people. For me, I found the personal outreach where each email, even if I create a template, each email is to that individual, referencing a point of connection with that person. And I will say, just to close the loop, Mel, I actually do not do sales training. That's an area I leave to sales people that are sales coaches. So there again, for one of those lessons learned, can you do sales training? Absolutely. And then saying, okay, no, I need to make sure I give that to my partners in crime that focus on sales development per se.
Well, I'm happy you clarified, and I do want to highlight one of the things you did say, and I think it's the biggest thing that is the most important in the pipeline, and that's the word follow-up. I mean, it's so simple, but it's the biggest way that the ball gets dropped, and it's the biggest way you can shoot yourself in the foot if you're not following up. I mean, you can't expect people to think that you're so amazing that they're going to find you on LinkedIn and reach out to you.
It's great when that does happen, but it's rare.
It's rare. So I think the key takeaway there is the follow-up, especially in the pipeline scenario. You know, I love the fact that you lead with a relationship type business. I think just as women, we generally lead that way anyway. Mm-hmm. You did mention a little bit about your relationship with 1871. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, I was really.
It's one that all the women in tech are very familiar with. So
yes, well, and what a wonderful organization from so many levels. Their ability to help entrepreneurs, help women entrepreneurs, to help women in tech. So you don't have to be an entrepreneur. You can be in a technical field. I mean, it just runs the gamut. And then also the ability for organizations to partner with them to sponsor different programs and to really, the robust job postings that it's available for people. It's overall such a great relationship. And such a great organization that I've been lucky to be involved with. How it started out was that I was asked by a former colleague to come in when it was Illinois Technology Association. So before Illinois Technology Association, or ITA, as some of you know it as, merged and was acquired by 1871. So I was in charge of a lot of ITA's member training sessions. So a lot of organizations that were members in the tech community within Chicago, they would send their new managers to my new manager training courses through ITA. So what was nice about that is, again, you have this automatic pipeline of individuals to reach out to. And I really do credit ITA with again, furthering that launch of my business, because they knew what I could do from a corporate standpoint because we'd worked together, but giving that faith in me to, hey, we're going to entrust our members and their development to you. And it was wonderful. And then with them combining with 1871, more opportunities to work alongside other programs opened up. So I've been a speaker at their International Women's Day program. I have also worked on their WiSTEM program, which is Women in STEM, which highlights entrepreneurial women that are creating a product or service-based business. And then I'm also lucky enough to be in my third year, just launching the third year of the Women Influence Chicago Accelerator program. So I work with some fabulous individuals on that program as well. And we've had overwhelming success of getting women through this program. And these are women in technical roles that we're really looking to get them promoted and get them in higher technical roles in the Chicago tech space. And the amount of people who've been promoted and the growth that we've seen has been really rewarding to be a part of that as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I think I shared with you that at one point I attempted to put my hat in the ring for WiSTEM, and the last question is, what is your tech component? And I'm like, I trade online. But it is a program where I'm very affectionate to some of the ladies who have run it in the past. You know, obviously a shout out to Nicole Yeri and Jessica Williams, two dear friends of mine. You know, just some amazing programs that have come out of 1871. And I'm sure with the, what do you want to call it, the merger with ITA, it has to be only even bigger and better now. So, all right. Well, as we wrap up here, tell us where we can find you.
Yes.
How we can find Elevate and anything that you want us to take away from our time together today.
Excellent. Well, thanks for the opportunity. LinkedIn is usually the best way to connect with me. This way you can find out a little bit more about me. So if you put in Kirsten Ramos Elevate, I will pop up. There's very few Kirsten Ramoses in the world. So usually I'll pop right up in the first three there. But Kirsten Ramos Elevate on LinkedIn. Also, feel free to go to my website. This is going to give you some idea of what it is I do. There's also a Calendly link on there. If you have any desire to talk further and to schedule some time with me, I'm more than happy to talk through any of your needs, whether or not it's individual presentation skills that you need help with, or if you are looking for a learning and development partner for your organization. I would love to talk about how I might be able to help. And my website is elevateperformance.net. So I'd love to see you all on LinkedIn and through my website.
Fantastic. Well, again, thank you for taking the time today. I know you're a busy gal, and obviously wish you all the best with your future endeavors, both with 1871 and with Elevate, and obviously looking forward to spending more time with you at WIBC. So have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon.
That sounds great. Thanks so much, Mel.
You're welcome. Take care.